everyone. When you always want, if you had a chance to go back in time to be able to fix something that was horrible, that changed your life, something like losing a loved one or a doll, a pet, or something really bad, and you had the opportunity to be able to go fix that, what would be the ripples from that? What would change in history? And we're going to find out tonight because we are going to be talking all about The Flash. That's right, the newest film from DC. And it is going to be interesting to talk all about this one. We got a great crew to do it. And let's do some introductions real quick. And then we're going to hop real quick into it. We'll get to it in a flash, you could say, even. Sorry about that. First, of course, joining us because it's a movie review, Ashley Pauls is here.
Thank you so much. It's always great to talk about superhero movies with you guys, whether it's DC or Marvel. So we definitely have a lot to talk about these days.
Oh, we definitely have a lot to talk about again. And it's going to be interesting. Did superhero fatigue hit us like we've been kind of predicting, or did it knock it out of the ballpark? We'll find out real quick. And of course, from Earth Station DCU, let's welcome Drew and Cletus. Welcome, guys.
Hey, thanks for having us on to talk about The Flash.
Cletus, good to have you, sir.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Drew and I have been anticipating this one for a while. This one in particular, I think, has had a unique spectacle around it leading up to its release. So I think this one had a little bit of extra intrigue compared to some of the other recent DC films that have come out.
No, can't disagree with that. And I hope we dive into this all the way tonight. And of course, as always, Mr. Flash Gordon himself, Mikey is here. Howdy.
Howdy.
You're welcome and ready for this one, dude?
Yeah, so you're saying that, if I want to fix a traumatic event in my life, maybe I could go back and change things like not joining this podcast?
Yes. We might actually be successful then. It might be awesome.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yes, we both might be.
Exactly. You never know. Kiki Zombie could be on issue 100 already in the 13 years. Pretty cool, though. But yes, things like that could happen. Or, you could be co-hosting a podcast with Michael Keaton. That'd be even awesome.
Well, yes, I guess that could be done as well.
Exactly. Or even worse, you could be hosting a podcast with yourself, younger.
I thought you were going to say Joe Rogan.
No, I wouldn't even go that place for. Well, we definitely would love to hear from everybody. And please, feedback at our Station One is definitely the place to write us and such. And if you get a chance, of course, if you're watching us up on YouTube or if you're listening to us at home, please subscribe. It's the best way for people to find out. Our numbers will go up. And it's also great because we come out now twice a week. So it's a great way for everyone to find us. And of course, before we go any further, we are going to be spoiling the heck out of this movie. So start running real fast, go back till Thursday, watch it, and then come back to listen to this one. So it should be actually a ton of fun. I don't know, Mr. Mike.
A whole different host by then.
Exactly. You never know. You might see somebody go in the hosting position going, "That's right. It's time to get going for the Dark Knight podcast." So it could be awesome. So, Mr. Mike, take it away.
Well, as usual, we like to start with the box office, and boy, it's not pretty for this one. As of yesterday, and we're recording this on Monday, the opening weekend gross for The Flash was 55 million in the United States and Canada, 75 million in other territories. So for a worldwide gross of 130 million, that is low. I think I know that's lower than Black Adam.
Yes.
And I believe that's even it's right around like Shazam Fury of the Gods territory. I don't think that one was that high either. So this I'm surprised by this number. I know that a lot of movies this summer have underperformed. And so there's a lot of reasons that people are not going to the theater, and it doesn't even have anything to do with the quality of the movie. Things are happening, things are getting on streaming so fast. People are staying away just because they got used to staying away from the pandemic. It's too expensive, blah, blah, blah. There's just a lot of reasons that people are sticking away from the theaters. And so yeah, I mean, I thought we were seeing an improvement of box office numbers with Across the Spider-Verse last week. And that looked really hopeful because that did double what the original movie did, but not the case here. I think this is probably done worse than any Michael Keaton Batman movie in history. So, any thoughts on the box office, guys, and the poor box office for this weekend?
I know when I was at the theater, I went on Friday night, and I was very surprised that it wasn't even 1/3 of the way full. It was pretty empty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my showing was not full either.
Right.
I don't know that it's one thing. I think this film was a combination of a lot of different factors. Obviously, you have the controversy surrounding the film. You have the poor branding that DC is dealing with right now that I think is affecting any film that they put out until it's proven to be good. Um, and the knowledge that this film wasn't going to count, so to speak, for anything because they're rebooting with James Gunn's Superman film. I mean, I'm not saying that's the biggest factor, but enough people knew that, and enough people that might have gone to see the film probably knew that. And then also, as we've mentioned, streaming. I think it's a lot of things. A perfect storm just kind of combined to real. I was shocked the numbers were that low. I was not expecting it to be a mega hit, but I thought it would do better than Black Adam. I can't. I'm shocked that Black Adam outperformed this film.
Yeah, me as well.
Yep.
Ashley, any thoughts?
Yeah, no, Cletus, I feel like you said it very well. There's a lot of factors going on here. And I think also part of the conversation, I think some of the Marvel ones have been underperforming a little bit too. So not necessarily, I know people have been talking about superhero fatigue for many years. And for a lot of that, I feel like people were maybe saying that prematurely, but we could maybe be starting to feel a little bit of that. People are kind of looking for something new and different. So I feel like James Gunn's Superman movie will do very well. But yeah, just because it's a weird time for the DC cinematic universe and there's been a lot of other movies coming out this summer. I feel like this is the first year since the pandemic where we've had like a big movie every single weekend. So maybe people aren't used to that so much anymore. So they're either saving their money for Indiana Jones or they already went to see Guardians or Into the Spider-Verse, something like that could be playing into it as well.
For me, I'm getting tired of the word or hearing the phrase hero fatigue, superhero fatigue. I just think I don't think it's superhero fatigue so much as we're not getting as good stories out there. I think that's what it is.
I was going to say I think it's mediocre film fatigue. I think it's
Well, exactly. People want to see good things, and it's a lot of word of mouth. And like you guys, I saw it last night, and we went to an 8:30 show, and there were maybe 10 people in the theater, and I was like shocked by how little people were in it. It wasn't like the weather was bad. It wasn't like it was a holiday weekend or anything like that. It was Father's Day, actually. But, what better way to take dad to a movie, type thing. But I enjoyed, you know, being at the movie theater and seeing the spectacle up on a huge screen. This movie was made for the big screen. And I loved that we got to see that. But also, I think there's just a lot of controversy around the lead actor. And I think that might have put a taint on it a little bit. And so that might have been an issue too. But then again, I know a lot of people were wanting to see this movie because there was no secret who was coming back in this one. And, this is the first time we got Michael Keaton as Batman since '92. So it was.
Yeah, but that's also like a few generations ago. So
yeah,
like the
Even in
kids
the
don't.
younger generation, though, that Batman is, that's still very popular.
Yeah, but not, I mean, there's been two other Batmans since then. You know, so it's like
Actually, three.
I think the kids today are just like, you know, I think that that's just he's just too old to really make a difference. But
Actually,
then again, you know, we're going to see if that's calling in effect, like if that affects Indiana Jones, because it certainly took us all by surprise because it wasn't a factor for Tom Cruise in Top Gun last year. So, you know, I mean, who knows? Who knows, right? You roll the dice and you see what's up.
but
All right, so
Top Gun ended up turning out to be a decent movie. That's the thing. Even I had to eat crow and and say it was decent. And yeah, I'm the biggest basher on that one. And people want to still see good stories. And which is sad because this is a decent story we got. And, you know, even for a superhero movie, I think it was a little more, you know, you had to be kind of a comic geek to get some of the inside stuff for it, or you've had to be a DC person or, you know, totally know a lot of it because some of it went right over Judy's head when we saw it.
yeah.
So that might have been an issue too.
Well, let's get deeper into all of that. Drew, we'll start with you. What were your expectations going in, and overall, when you left the theater, were you satisfied?
Going into it, I had low expectations. And that was on purpose. But I was pleasantly surprised. I really liked this movie a lot. Had comedy and had some moments and stuff. Love seeing Michael Keaton as Batman again. Of course, I was a freshman in high school when the 89 movie came out. So, you know, that was my Batman for a while. But yeah, I really enjoyed this movie, though I did have some issues with it. They had one of the stupidest scenes in cinematic history, I thought, with that baby scene. I did not like that. And it seemed like they kept showing it. I didn't like that. And I thought some of the CGI was kind of funky looking, but that also had some surprises in it. I wasn't expecting Wonder Woman to be in it. That was a surprise. I wasn't surprised to see Ben Affleck's Batman in it. And I'm always happy to see Jeremy Irons as Alfred. So yeah. But yeah, overall I enjoyed it.
Cool. Cletus, what about you? Going in and coming up?
There's a version of this movie has been floating out there for so long. I never really trusted that it was going to be good. I mean, Drew and I have talked about it on the podcast intermittently when, you know, the director would change or a different screenwriter would come on, whatever. And we would talk about like, man, I don't know. And eventually it actually got made and we finally actually saw a trailer for it. And I was like, I don't know. I don't know. And one of the things that going in had me most intrigued was the level of confidence that Warner Brothers was projecting in the film. Like it was, I thought the marketing in the sense of the way that Warner Brothers was talking about the film and the confidence that they were projecting in it was different than basically any of the other DC films that they've done. And that had me, I was like, what about this film has them so, like, are they just trying to get people to talk about that and not talk about Ezra Miller? I don't know. And having seen it, it's pretty good. I don't know why they talked about it like that. It's a pretty good superhero film. I don't think it did it's not like, to me, it wasn't a genre changer. It wasn't like The Dark Knight, or it wasn't like Endgame or something that did something you'd never seen in a superhero film. It was pretty good. Like it did a superhero film well. I enjoyed it. There were a lot of really fun moments, but the confidence thing to me going out of the film was like it had to be them trying to divert attention because there wasn't anything unique to me about it. And then the thing that surprised me the most is I had avoided reading reviews for the most part because I don't want to get little snippets of things I don't want to know until I've seen the film. But I had seen little nuggets of people saying that the CGI was bad. And I was like, oh, I don't know. I mean, how much CGI do you need to do? Like if you do the Flash really fast, you don't really have to show anything. And whoa, Oh my God. It it was all I could think about after the film. Was like the thing that has stuck with me the most about the film is how bad the CGI was and how much they used it. They didn't need to. The baby scene, Drew, one of the reasons I think the baby scene is distracting is because of they look terrible. Like they look like toys floating in the air and they're supposed to be
Mhm.
real babies. And then the Chrono Bowl doesn't have to be CGI. I don't understand why you couldn't use stills and animate it. Like I'm sure it's difficult, but that's the beauty of the movie magic, right? Is there's a way to do that. And I felt like they made the movie more expensive by making stuff CGI that did not need to be CGI, especially with the quality of CGI that they were putting in. To
Mhm.
me, it was so distracting. It definitely knocked my opinion of the film down because it was all I could think about. Anytime they were in the Chrono Bowl, which was a lot, it was all I could think was like, oh my God, why is the CGI? It is so bad.
Yeah,
Would
yeah.
agree with that.
There's a ton of CG in here, and I have heard complaints about it as well. Yeah, I mean, when you're using this much CG, unless you're James Cameron, it's not all going to be great. Right? Nobody does nobody just painstakingly like taking shot by shot, uh, doing it, make sure and everything's great shot by shot like the and meticulously as Cameron does. So, I mean, I thought some sequences were good and some not, but we'll get into more of those. Ashley, I want to hear about you though. Expectations going in?
Yeah, so I mean, I was this is a film I wanted to see. I am a person that just enjoys superhero movies generally. So if there's a new one coming out, I like to go see it in theater. I was familiar with the Flash character, was a big fan of the CW's Arrowverse, so was familiar with like Grant Gustin, his portrayal of the character. And even though I know that Zack Snyder's subsection of the DC Cinematic Universe is a little bit controversial, I really loved the Snyder cut of the Justice League. So I was kind of looking forward to seeing this as probably the last film that I'll get within kind of that subsection of the universe before the hard reset. So I would say, yeah, in general, I felt like I really enjoyed the film. I liked that it was kind of a mix of humor and action, but also had some of those more emotional moments of the fact that you have to let someone you love die because if you save them, the whole universe is going to unravel. I mean, which it sounds like an easy choice, like, oh, yeah, you shouldn't let the universe unravel. But if it was someone that was close to you, that would be a very difficult choice to make. And was great seeing the cameos and some of the classic characters return, like Michael Keaton. Always great to see Wonder Woman. One of my favorite superhero movies of all time is Wonder Woman. So it was wonderful to see her again. Like others kind of mentioned, I did notice some moments of dodgy CGI, which again is interesting because I feel like this film was delayed some due to COVID. So it seemed like maybe they would have had a little more time to work on it. But that was one thing that kind of distracted me a little bit. But yeah, overall, I really enjoyed it and was puzzled to see that it didn't do very well at the box office. So just yeah, post pandemic, it's a really interesting times for films. But I personally enjoyed it and was glad I went to see it.
Yeah, this movie was supposed to initially come out in 2016.
Wow. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
how long and storied of a backstory it was to try to get this thing made.
Oh, very so. And
It's been crazy.
they also
Yes.
actually they also filmed three different endings for this movie,
Wow.
and then they have them all on film, just
I'm sure we'll
because.
see, like demand the cut, right?
Yeah.
Well, no, I hope not. But because of changes in Warner Brothers and who was in charge of the films, they kept on changing, oh, let's do this, let's do this. They didn't film the ending that we saw at the end of this one with George Clooney until February of this year.
Oh, wow.
So, that's, how much it's changed because it's just interesting because we got the first ending actually had Henry Cavill in it. It also had Gal Gadot and it also had Michael Keaton as as Batman still in it, and
Interesting.
also of course had the young lady who was Supergirl in it still.
Hmm.
And so it was just interesting that that scene was cut, and then they redid it again, and then it was just Michael Keaton and Supergirl in it at the end with Barry. So it was just interesting depending what you got. And because they canceled the Patty Jenkins third Wonder Woman movie, so that's why they pulled Wonder Woman from it. And then what ended up the poor showing of Black Adam, and then them deciding to cut Henry's Superman, and the new regime came in at DC, that basically they said, "Look, we can't have that scene." So it was just real interesting. And and it was a good surprise seeing actually that version of Bruce
Yeah.
in there and everything. I did not know that he was going to be in it. I was actually really, really surprised.
So,
I didn't either. Like over the phone, I was noticing that doesn't quite sound like Ben Affleck. And then George Clooney stepped out. It's like, well, you got me. Did not see that coming.
yeah, I thought it for sure it was Keaton. Because it actually sounded like Keaton.
It did.
I think they
purposely
did
that.
mess around with the sound. I think it was Keaton's voice initially. And then yeah, it was George.
Mhm. So, but it was real interesting. And was I disappointed with the movie? Not at all. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it more than I liked Black Adam. I enjoyed it more than
It's not
the
a high
Shazam
bar, Mike.
movie. I know, but I also enjoyed more than the Shazam movie. Hell, I loved it. I liked it better than I liked Zack Snyder, anything Zack Snyder did. So, I thought it was very well done. Yeah, CGI sucked. CGI was very sloppy in this, and especially being, doing my own animations and doing my own stuff with, artwork and stuff. I thought I was kind of like, what? This is just awful, and way too much time on the babies at the beginning and everything. And of course, Judy was like, "Oh, what about the dog? Are they going to rescue the dog?" So, it was perfect for that. But it was interesting too, because I liked once they got into the storyline. I thought the CGI that they did with the two Ezra Millers, though, with the two Barrys, was great. I I didn't doubt that at all throughout the film. It didn't look, sloppy. Oh, wait, that's a double or something. It felt like it was the two of them. And then Michael Keaton. Come on, Michael. Every scene with Michael Keaton was awesome and everything, and I enjoyed that. And then I did like Sasha Cal as Kara. I didn't think I was going to, because I have a Kara since I was a little kid, blonde hair, very slight and everything. And you get this actress, and she was an alternate version of Supergirl, and I believed it. I wanted to see a movie with her in it and everything. I really enjoyed her character. I thought she was great. And I loved how they tied in Flashpoint to the story point, how Barry getting his powers back was right from Flashpoint, the comics. Then also, of course, the whole thing, in Flashpoint, the Russians or actually the US government, I think it was, had Kal-El captured, and he was like withered away because they kept him out of the sun. Same thing what they did with Kara in this. And I loved it as soon as she was in sunlight. Boy, did they let her go. And that was awesome. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, I like most of you. I didn't know what to think going into this really. They were sending, there's been such a storied history of getting this made, and I didn't know what we were going to get out of this. It seemed like it was going to be a mess, and it kind of was, but that wasn't all bad. I came out of it thumbs up, but just moderately. I thought overall it was just all right. And I didn't really have a problem with a lot of the CG. I'm used to watching bad effects and stuff. Like I just am. Like it's just like it really has to be horrible. I mean, absolutely horrible for it to really like affect me when I'm watching it. But the story was okay. And then there's I don't know how many of you guys started watching this, or how many of y'all are wrestling fans, but there's a term that's used called cheap pops. And you get a cheap pop in wrestling if you're in a city and you say like, "Hey, Boston," and then the crowd goes nuts, right? It's really easy. You don't have to do anything. It doesn't involve any character work. It doesn't involve any story work. All you do is say Boston, like, and so this movie goes, Michael Keaton, and everybody has a pop. You know, Christopher Reeve, and everybody has a pop. You know, George Reeve, everybody has a pop. Like this just is full of cheap pops all throughout the movie until the very end when you got George Clooney, cheap pop. And then Aquaman, it's like, that's not so much of a cheap pop because does anybody really care? I mean, I guess it's supposed to lead up to the Aquaman movie, which is next, I guess. Well, after Blue Beetle or whatever. So I don't know. It seems like this is a universe that still, even on its tail end, doesn't know what it's doing. And this movie doesn't really add to that. I think the story is compelling. I will say that Ezra and his performance ×2 was actually more impressive to me than I expected. Like you said, Mike, I never doubted that there were two of them. Like I thought the effects on that were really well done. And considering that he probably had 9 times out of 10 when he had to work against themselves. That's amazing to me that they were able to pull that off. Because that's not easy. Now, maybe it's because nobody wants to work with them. so they're working with themselves.
Wow.
But I went there. But in any case, Keaton's always good. Keaton's good in everything he does, though. So it's not like I'm a big surprise. But I'm one of the few people who didn't like the '89 Batman movie when it came out. So I didn't hate Michael Keaton in it. I didn't hate Jack Nicholson in it. I hated just about everybody else who was in that movie. But I'm not a big fan of that original Batman movie. So was I really excited to see Michael Keaton as Batman again? And for him to just say the lines that he said made popular in those over and over again? Not really. I mean, it was like, okay, great, So, and then as far as like the bad guy, having the other Flash, the other Barry ended up being the bad guy, I saw coming. Maybe it's because I'm used to I know the Flashpoint story, backward and forward and sideways and through all the multiverses that has been done. I mean, it's been done so much. Heck, the CW show has done it like 8 times, it feels like. And it's weird because that origin for Barry is relatively new. Like Jeff Johns created that origin for Barry, that his mother was killed. I don't think it existed prior to that for the 30, 40 years the character was around. Like it's only been in the last like 15 or 20 years, I think, that's been a thing. And yet that's what most people know of as his origin. So I don't know. I didn't hate it. But I think like you, Cletus, I didn't walk out like, oh, that was a game changer. And I'd heard many people, Tom Cruise being one of them, James Gunn being one of them, saying that this is one of the best superhero movies that's ever been made. Now I know they're doing it because they get paid, but still, I was like, I did not feel that way coming out of this. I did not feel like this was one of the best superhero movies ever made. It's not even the best one I've seen this month. So that would be, if you compare that to Across the Spider-Verse, I mean, it's just, the only thing this one has going for it is it doesn't end with to be continued. All right, so let's break it down some more. Ashley, we're going to start with you. What's something else about the movie that you want to talk about, whether good or bad?
Yeah, I liked the exploration that this movie had with the 2 versions of Flash. I feel like that's a concept that could have gone off the rails pretty easily, but they were I bought them as the same character, but also distinct. And just like setting aside all the controversy surrounding Ezra Miller, this is one where I just decided separate the art from the artist, and not everybody is able to do that. Totally respect that. I think that's something that each person going to see the movie has to decide for themselves. But yeah, I appreciated that it was an emotionally driven performance, just with the loss of Barry's mom, and that was his reason to go start messing with the time-space continuum. And I mean, realistically, like, which one of us, if we had that power, would I be tempted to do that? Probably yes. So but I thought they also did a good job showing how if you change one tiny thing, like the domino effect, it can change so many different things. Like even when he went back to set the universe right, even though it's funny, a little moment to see George Clooney, like it shows even then he's trying to reset things, but it's still not exactly right because he's messing around with the timeline and just trying to reset things. So yeah, that was probably the highlight of the film for me, was seeing the two different flashes and then kind of like going back through his history, seeing him having to like lose his powers and then get them back, and kind of all that surrounding it. I enjoyed seeing that part of the story.
And having little older Barry having to deal with younger, spoiled
Yes.
brat Barry
And
was kind of fun.
I feel like teenage Barry would have been kind of annoying if he was the only character, but the fact that present day Barry is kind of irritated with teenage Barry too makes it work. Like, and if we're honest, we were probably all a little bit like
I
that
was
to an
about to say
extent
the
as
same thing.
teenagers. Yeah,
Oh,
like
sure.
yeah, like looking back into my past, like if I had to hang out with 18-year-old me, I might get a little bit annoyed as well. So I felt like it was realistic enough that it didn't bother me as a viewer. It worked in the context of the story.
Yeah.
And that also explained a lot, also the maturity on why that Barry became bad and everything.
Yeah.
You basically, because Barry had, the more older Barry had years to hone his powers and everything and to become more mature on it. And the younger Barry was thrown right into the fire, just getting the powers right away. He didn't have, with great powers comes great responsibility, So basically he didn't have that. And it explained why he was like, I can go back in time and change this and keep on doing it. And you got to see Supergirl die over and over, and Batman die over at the hands of Zod and everything.
Yeah. I mean, apparently there was no way out. Like, apparently that world is supposed to end with Zod killing everybody. There was no way around it, which is very weird and interesting at the same time. Also, it's interesting because quote unquote older Barry doesn't seem mature at all in the first 20 minutes of this movie, until he meets younger spoiled Barry. And all of a sudden he seems like he's a little bit more mature, because it's like, whoa, look at what you have to compare him to. So yeah, it's not like I would say, oh, Barry was so mature as he was older, because he wasn't until he went back in time. And also, and you guys probably know this better than I do, the DCU guys, I think this is the first time Barry's gone back to save his mother and not tried to stop the murderer. Instead, do something else, right? Which seemed odd to me, because it seems like if you want to stop the murder of your parent, you would stop the murderer. And that's not even, we don't even know who the murderer is in this movie.
And I thought that was very odd that we didn't see who the murderer was. So that was one issue I had. I was like, why didn't we focus on that? Of course, we know it's usually the Reverse Flash, so I'm guessing they didn't want to bring him into the movie. But I thought it was interesting that it was the jar of spaghetti sauce that was the thing they chose to change.
Mm-hmm.
And we even saw it at the end of the movie with his dad and the video footage of how they moved the spaghetti sauce to the top shelf, which made him look up
at the camera.
Yeah. So thought that was interesting. Now, for me with Ezra Miller, it took me a while to adjust to him being Barry in this movie. I don't know if it's because I've been seeing Grant Gustin for so long on the Flash show or what, but it took me a little bit for him to feel like Barry to me. Of course, he was still a different type of Barry.
Right.
Oh, he's definitely not the
He's
same
more like a
Barry that
Wally
we're-
or a Bart.
Yeah. And he still felt very immature to me at the beginning of the movie. And it was funny how he really matured when he was with his younger self.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Absolutely.
I thought that was I thought that was an interesting dynamic through the movie and added a lot of comedy.
Yeah. Some of it didn't land for me. So maybe that's a big thing with me too, as far as being just black. Cause a lot of people were coming out of here saying, I saw a lot of reviews saying it's really funny. And I'm like, it didn't really feel funny to me. I mean, I knew it was trying to be, but some of it didn't work for me. Cletus, what's something else about the movie, bad or good, that came out of it for you?
A little bit of both on the same topic. So you mentioned this, Mike, that it did a pretty good job hitting a lot of the major points of the Flashpoint comic. And I thought it did a pretty we got, like you said, we got Barry getting his powers back just like in the comic. Him encountering a different version of Batman. Obviously, they changed it to be an older Bruce instead of Thomas, but that the changes that they made for the most part, I thought worked for the film. I thought changing from the war between Aquaman and Wonder Woman, while that would have been cool to see, changing it to be re-exploring Man of Steel, I really liked. I thought that was a cool kind of reframing of Man of Steel, because when you see Man of Steel, it's in a world where nothing else has happened, right? It's just that movie. And seeing it instead from the framework of this is an inhabited world where Barry is there, Bruce is there, Supergirl is there, was cool. I thought that was a cool way to kind of reframe that movie, and bring Zod back. I liked a lot of that. The big change though, going from Reverse Flash being the antagonist to Barry himself becoming the antagonist, I thought was an interesting idea, but I do think it caused some of the problems with the film too. Like we just talked about, we don't know who kills Barry's mom. It's heavily implied it's a nobody. It's a Joe Chill who just breaks into the house. And why do you do that? Because you take Reverse Flash out, the murderer doesn't matter now. And by exploring, by wanting the twist to be it's the younger Barry that gets twisted by time travel and turns evil. To be clear, I like that idea, but because you want to keep that twist hidden, which I think most of us can agree they didn't do a good job of hiding, they don't want to do too much with that character. So he's not on screen almost at all. We see him once in the Chrono Bowl at the beginning, and then we see him pop up very, very briefly before the fight with Zod. And then we see the big scene in the Chrono Bowl, and that's it. And so when his defeat happens within seconds, it didn't really, it felt very hollow to me, because that character technically has been around because we've been watching him as Barry technically the whole movie, but we haven't seen that version of him. And so when he goes and stabs himself and disappears, I was like, is that it? I don't know. I thought it was a really cool idea, but if you're going to do that, you got to I think that character has to be in the film more in order for that scene to feel less hollow. And I don't know. I mean, maybe you sacrifice the twist and you just own that it's going to be kind of telegraphed that that's who that evil Flash is. But that's by not having it be the Reverse Flash. I think they kind of sacrificed a little bit of meaning at the end of that film. I think it was a really good idea, but it didn't. The version that they went with didn't fully land, because of that change.
Yeah.
One other quick thing, that I want to ask you guys, that we've mentioned it, the Aquaman scene at the end credits. did not land at all in my
No, not at
screening.
all.
And I wondered, I just don't think it's very funny. It's supposed to be a funny scene. And personally, I've never found a character getting trashed, and that is just the comedy being that funny. But that's just me. That's subjective.
Mm-mm.
But I wonder, and I wanted to get your guys' opinion on this. I know I felt this, and I think a lot of the audience was feeling this too. It wasn't clear whether that was Aquaman or not. I spent most of that scene trying to figure out if this was a human Arthur and Barry had messed something up, and it wasn't clear that it was just a pure comedy scene until it ended. Like the scene ended, and I was like, "Oh, it was a joke." I think a lot of people were trying to figure like, wait, is this actually Aquaman? I honestly think that hurt because you had the twist with Clooney at the end of the film, which I liked. Then this extra credit scene, you're spending the whole scene wondering, is he Aquaman?
Yeah, it comes out of nowhere. There's no lead up to it or anything. You don't know why they're together. You don't know. Yeah, it's very bizarre. And this movie I think wants us to do a lot of lifting for it. And as far as the changes that you were talking about, one of the scenes that kind of haunts me is, and I'm not sure why they felt they needed to include it, but we find out when Zod attacked in Man of Steel, we find out what Barry was doing. And Barry was able to save a child, but not his father, right? Not the child's father. It's a very emotional scene. It's a very touching scene. It's done very well. And it brings us right back to Batman v Superman with Bruce trying to, save people and everything like that. And how that was just one of the big things about Man of Steel was that it had ripple effects on a lot of the other movies that came after it. Then once things change, or when they try to go back in time and change things, they show they're attacking Zod's army, and they show the city, and they show the boy and his father, and I mean, we don't actually see it, but it's like, no, they both die.
Yeah, there was no need to show that.
I was like, why are you showing us this? This doesn't. What am I supposed to feel about that? Like, that just seems mean. Yeah, but I mean, it was, I guess just one more thing where everybody was supposed to die. I mean, everybody was going to die. Mike, what's something else about the movie that impressed you or not impressed you?
Well, it was interesting because for me, it was interesting because I liked seeing Zod again. I thought that was pretty amazing to see. And I liked the confrontation between him and Kara. And, especially when he said that they intercepted Kal-El's, rock jet, and basically, they killed the kid, didn't survive it, basically. And, and then Kara's reaction and shooting the heat beams out of her eyes and everything was just so good, so good. And, no one's neck had to get broken either, which was pretty awesome to see. So that was a plus.
It's so ironic because in Man of Steel, one of the biggest controversies is that Superman takes a life.
Right.
And takes Zod's life, right?
Yep.
In this movie, we've got a Supergirl who has no problem taking life whatsoever. She massacres a whole army of Russian guys.
Yes, she does.
Kills them, straight up murders them all. Now, granted, she has reason to. I'm not saying she doesn't. That's not justified. But she has no problem murdering people, and yet she can't murder Zod. like I was like, that's kind of that's kind of a twist.
Unwillingness or an inability, though? I thought.
Well, no, it was an inability.
I think it was an inability to more.
Yeah, I mean, she wanted to, sure.
Oh, very much.
But
so.
she couldn't.
But I
thought the big guy was going to end up being Clark. I thought for sure the big guy was going to take off, like his helmet was going to fall off or something, and it was going to be Henry. I was going to be like, that would have been something, but whatever.
Yeah, but no, I like the interactions between the two Barrys, and I thought that was pretty awesome. And I even liked, there was some fun parts in it. I loved, the whole thing with Diana's lasso and everything, and and the truth coming out both from Bruce and from Barry. I thought that was pretty fun. But that was nice to have a little bit of lightness, but I didn't find this like ha 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 funny 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 or anything like that, like some people were saying. So it's like I wonder if I saw the same movie or not. But like I said earlier, I liked seeing Michael Keaton back. I did like him as Batman, and I thought I loved how he was a recluse, and I loved how he was, pretty much knocking the heck out of our Barry, but the Barry who had the powers was just like, oh look, I'm getting out of the way here, getting out of the way there, and it was interesting. And then I did feel a ting of nostalgia when they went into the cave the first time, and then I thought that was awesome, especially when they turned on the lights and everything, and seeing the waterfall and everything. Because I think for me that was one of my favorite Bat caves in film, and I had a blast with that. And I thought it was interesting, and I liked the little takes that they did from the Flashpoint storyline and everything. And I couldn't see them doing an Amazon and Aquaman war, because not enough people who go see these movies read the comics, watch the TV shows or anything. And it's the same thing with the Reverse Flash. Them introducing the Reverse Flash would just be another character that they would have to try to explain, and I don't think they would be able to handle it, truthfully, because we know who the Reverse Flash is. We know because we've read the comics or watched the TV show, and we know who Thane is and such. It would have been kind of cool, a little nod to the TV show, if they would have brought in the Reverse Flash from the TV show as the bad guy or something. And it was interesting. I was real disappointed. My one big disappointment, we didn't get to see Grant at all in this movie and everything. And, it would have been a nice little nod, especially on one of those CGI worlds that they were showing, like the green.
Yeah. Let's spend the money and show us a extended Nick Cage scene that nobody wants.
I thought it was kind of cool seeing actually the Nick Cage spider scene, because Kevin Smith has made so much fun of, having to write that scene with the giant spiders and everything in it, because that was Kevin Smith's script with the Nicolas Cage movie. And so no, I didn't mind it. And I totally geeked out seeing the Golden Age Flash and that one glow, and the same world where the 1950s Superman lived and everything. I thought that was pretty cool. So I enjoyed some of it and everything. And I would have loved to seen them do more with that, or seeing the worlds more collide or anything, and then them just saying, because of what Barry did, there's only one world or something, kind of like what they did with Flashpoint at first. So it would have been cool to see.
They're not ready to do that yet, though.
Nope. But they got rid of the Snyderverse, which is
we
cool.
don't know what that one universe is going to be like, and for another 2 years.
Mm-mm.
I'll tell you, the only parts of with Keaton's Batman that I really, really liked in this movie, because it didn't depend on nostalgia, was when they infiltrated the Russian base and he just kicked ass. Like the fight scenes, like Michael Keaton and the stunt people that were using that suit back in the late 80s, early 90s, could not move like that. And yet, he had that problem with, moving his head like this, but they kind of fixed that or went around it with those fight sequences. And I was just like, man, that's a Batman I wish we got to see fight back then. Because his ability to just take those folks out, I just thought was amazing. It was comparable to the Batman fight sequence in Batman v Superman, I think, for me.
It was a great scene. It was truly awesome. And I loved when, every time they started shooting, he would just open his cape and it was all the bulletproof and the bullets were hitting. But you could see him, because it was still probably hurting, them.
It's made out of the same material as John Wick's suit, right?
Of course. Very much so. Of course.
And the bullets just bounce off. And I will say too, the one thing I did want to point out too, as far as the CG special effects, what have you, I mean, I know that some are better than others or whatever, but to me, the best effects were at the beginning showing the Flash and his speed. Like the speed effects for the Flash in this movie were way better than any speed effects I've seen on any flat, like, and that includes like the CW show, and now because we've seen that over and over again, and we'd seen a little bit of it in, the Justice League movie or whatever, but the scene in particular where he goes from Central City to Gotham, uh it just, walking on water and all that kind of stuff. I was just like, man, like, this is what I want from a Flash movie. This is what I think Flash like experiences when he goes fast. And I thought that effect looked really cool. Some of the effects of, everything going in the slow motion once he was doing things like, the babies and all that kind of stuff. Some of that worked for me and some of it didn't. But the actual effect of him moving fast, I thought was great. I did think it was weird though. Sometimes he had red lightning and sometimes he had blue lightning. It seems like they couldn't really decide, like,
Blue was
like,
I thought the blue was
other
the other
Flash.
berry.
yeah, I thought so too. But then there were times when the older berries was blue. And I couldn't figure out that really. I just thought that was odd.
Very interesting, Mr. Gordon.
Well, I don't know. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. Anything else? Now let's say, okay, so we don't know. Well, we pretty much know that this is the door is going to be closing on this universe. We get Blue Beetle, which I think is part of this universe, and we're getting Aquaman, and we may get other things here and there. I hope this isn't the last time we see Gal as Wonder Woman. They keep teasing, like she keeps showing up. She showed up in Shazam earlier, and she shows up here, and I'm just like, I just want you to have your own good movie, like, and at least before you go. But after seeing this, I mean, do we want any of this stuff to continue? Is there anything that you like about this sort of version of the DCU that you want to see continue? And furthermore, I want to start with you, Ashley, on this too, because I want to ask you first and foremost. It seems to me that you'd have to have a lot of knowledge about some of the comic stories, and some of the other iterations of the DCU to really understand this movie. Were you lost at any point?
I felt like I was able to keep pretty good track of it, but it's interesting as I stopped to think about that. Now I wonder if maybe general audiences maybe had a hard time like understanding the significance of the movie just because of my familiar with the CW stuff. So a lot of the terms and things that were used, even though I haven't been able to read the comics yet, I was introduced to them in the CW verse. So I wasn't surprised seeing them here. So I feel like that did give me a leg up as a viewer. I was able to track and follow along with what was happening because of some of my familiar with the other media. But I would be curious to hear somebody who doesn't know about the CW stuff, just catches superhero movies on occasion, what that viewing experience would be like.
Yeah, because I would think that because some of the things, like, if you've never seen a George Reeves Superman, if you've never seen a Christopher Reeve Superman, I mean, if you're only like 12 or 13 going to see this movie, all that stuff at the end completely lost to you. I mean, yeah, you kind of,
No, it's other Superman, basically, because you got to see other Batman. So basically you're just seeing other, even as a 12-year-old, you would know that, oh, it's just a different Superman. You got to see a Superman with long hair. You got to see a Superman with a Supergirl. You didn't know who they were, but, you just saw, or you got to see a Superman in black and white. And then you saw a guy running real fast with a, like a helmet on his head, basically. And then you got to see another Batman in black and white, or, and such also. So it's just, you saw different things. And I think that wouldn't have taken anybody out of it, like going, who are those people? They just they wouldn't know the history behind it, but A lot of people wouldn't even have a clue about the Nick Cage Superman movie. A lot of people who are just average fans wouldn't have a clue about that.
Yeah.
The only thing that I'd add to that though is the Nick Cage one looks like Nick Cage, like it's bad CGI, but it looks like Nick Cage. And that one, so my wife didn't know, I don't think, any of those references. And I think, Mike, like you were saying, it was mostly just seeing like an older Superman, an older Batman, whatever. But the Nick Cage one threw her off because it was clearly Nick Cage. And she was like, wait, what? Why does he look like Nick Cage? That was the only one that like
on this world, Nick Cage is Superman.
Yeah, like if you don't like if you don't know the references of any of those, I agree. I think for the most part, it just like you pick up on the idea it's an alternate version. But the Nick Cage one, I think, will pull people out of it if they don't. And I think most won't get that reference. I think a lot of people will be like, wait, why?
Mm.
Yeah, I when I compare that kind of thing, and I get it, I mean, it is a nostalgia pull, like it, just like I'm seeing the third season of Picard. It's like nostalgia, right? Doesn't matter if the script is bad, doesn't matter if the characters, doesn't matter what's going on, as long as we give you like nostalgia trips, everything's going to be okay. And I kind of felt like that's what they were pushing on us at the end in a very overly CG way. Drew, let's start with
let me say one thing with that though. It made more sense to show them and show all the different Earths, showing, instead of just seeing the green globe and the blue globe smashing into each other and everything. It actually gave it meaning. Oh, these are who's on these planets or versions of Earth. I think that's what did it there.
What I do like is that this, and even the CW did this when they did their Crisis crossover, they've referenced past DC media. And it seems to me that both of them are saying, hey, it all counts. Like it all is part of the DC multiverse. So that we can have more elements like this appear in movies or some form of media in going forward, because people understand like multiverses now, and so we can have different versions appear at the same time and work with that and have fun with it. But yeah, so before we get out of here, Drew, we'll start with you. Do you want to see more from this universe?
Me, I'm ready to move on. I am very excited about the Blue Beetle movie coming out because it's going to be new and different. People don't know most people don't know who Blue Beetle is. And the trailer for it looked really good. I'm excited about it. So, and James Gunn said on Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum that Blue Beetle is the first character in the new universe, even though this isn't the first movie. Superman Legacy is the first movie. So I don't know if that's his cryptic way of saying that Blue Beetle is going to be in his universe, but that's what he said.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, I guess anything to try to help promote the movie. Cletus, what about you? Do you want more of this? More Ezra as Flash, or this universe?
I don't particularly enjoy Ezra as the Flash, so I'm definitely okay with moving on from them specifically. I think they have to move on. I think this was the final kind of nail in the coffin. I know there was some murmurs that Warner's really liked this and they really liked Ezra in it, and so he might get to stick on. And then it bombed. I think they have to move on. And I think, Drew, one of the reasons that Gunn feels compelled to say that Blue Beetle is not part of the current DC universe is because it'll be DOA also. Yeah. If it's supposed to be part of the Snyderverse, so to speak, no one's going to go see it. They're going to wait for it to come out on streaming. That may happen anyway. We'll see. But I think because this film's pretty good. It is not the disaster that some of the other DC films in this era have been, and it's still bombed. They have to move on. And I would argue that this film demonstrated that I think basically everything is riding on Gunn's Superman movie. I think if that movie, I'm not expecting it to, But if that movie bombs, I don't know that they get a chance to make any of the other films that they have planned. I think if that one goes, the goodwill is instantly gone because they're like, look, this is the second time that you guys have tried to do this and you already messed it up. Again, I'm not saying that they will, but if that happens, I think the Gunn universe ends with Superman. I don't think they have any mulligans. I think they have to succeed on that because public opinion on DC films is non-existent.
Yeah.
Marvel, we talked about this at the beginning of the podcast. Marvel themselves are struggling with their films. The last year they've demonstrated that the film actually has to be good for a Marvel film to do well now. Where that was not the case during the peak Marvel era, they could put literally anything out and it would make $1 billion, and that's not the case now. The film actually has to be good. So if that's the case for them, and they have a huge built-in audience, they have a lot of goodwill. DC has none of that, which is unfortunate. But I'm sure that he feels the pressure. But this film, to me, really emphasized the importance of the Superman film being good. Like it kind of has to be good, or we're gonna probably just get individual pictures sporadically for a while, and that might not be a bad thing. That might spare us. I don't know, but any hope of a connected DC universe, I think, is riding on that Superman film, and it would be a shame if it doesn't happen because the one thing I kind of liked in this film was I thought this gave us our best taste of what DC could have looked like if they hadn't dropped the ball on this universe. This felt like the most lived in universe movie that we've gotten so far because Wonder Woman just shows up, right, casually. Ben Affleck's Batman is in it. They mentioned Superman. Alfred is, you know what I mean? Like it felt the most like a Marvel film where you would see other characters pop up for a little bit, maybe not actually be important to the plot, but just sort of a reminder like, hey, this is a lived in world and these other characters that you know from other movies are here. That this was the best taste of what that could have been, I thought. I don't know that they nailed it all the time, but that you could see where this universe could have gone in if somebody had moved the tomato cans in a different spot.
Well done. Well done. Ashley, do you want more from this universe?
Yeah, well, I mean, seeing Gal Gadot again would be amazing. I would like to see that, but I've kind of made my peace that with the cameo in Shazam and then the cameo in this is probably going to be the last time I see the character. So yeah, I think I've made peace with that. I do hope that I'm desperately hoping to get to see Robert Pattinson as Batman again, which is not a sentence I thought I would be saying 5 years ago, but here we are. And so I still kind of hope that they keep that
Still doing that one.
Yeah, regardless of what happens. But yeah, I agree with you, Cletus. I think that James Gunn's movie is going to be so important. Like I really enjoyed this movie, The Flash, but I think in terms of like box office and public opinion, what they need, that film needs to be great and do great at the box office, great with critics and great with fans. So no pressure there, but yeah. So I am curious to see that because I like James Gunn's work in general, and I'm hoping that they continue with Robert Pattinson. But yeah, I think that a lot of is up in the air for both DC and to a certain extent Marvel right now. So I think, again, as we've been saying, it's just important, like good stories, good characters that we care about. And the spectacle and special effects are always fun, but it comes down to that story and the characters. And I think if those are there, then people will continue to show up for these movies.
Mike?
I agree with what everybody had said. It's interesting too because you got a great story, but I think it's too little, too late. And there's a new regime coming in, and I think they want to pretty much wipe out the old and bring in new. I just hope people aren't expecting that they're going to get George Clooney now as Batman in the new universe. So it'll be interesting to see.
I know George Clooney doesn't want that.
Oh, I know. Hell, I was shocked to see George Clooney because he swore that he would never ever do a superhero movie again. So
Well, he didn't put on the suit.
no, but
They couldn't get him to put on the suit.
I always said he made a better Bruce Wayne than he did Batman anyway. So it was interesting to see. I'm going to be very curious to see what's next, and I'm glad they're distancing Blue Beetle a little bit from the Snyderverse or whatever they want to call it. So let's go on further and into the future. That's all I can say with it. And, I'll probably, this at least out of probably the last 5 DC movies will be one I'll watch again. This and the Batman probably are the two.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm there. I'm right there with Ashley. I mean, I still would like to have one more good Wonder Woman film with Gal, just because she deserves better than the last one she got, for sure. And yeah, I do think it's a smart move to put, like, I mean, I like Henry as Superman. I wish we got him. We only got real glimpses of him as like the Superman that I really like. So I feel like he's never really got a chance to play like a Superman that I would really like in a good Superman movie. But that's gone. I don't think they'll do anything with Superman from now until James Gunn's movie, because you definitely don't want that. You don't want to burn that bridge before that movie. That it's so important what James Gunn is doing, and that's the first official movie of that universe, of that shared universe, that yeah, they don't want anything to mess that up. So I think that's why Superman and Lois is going to go one more season and that's it, and then you won't see Superman at all for like a year and a half until the James Gunn movie in any form. So, but that doesn't mean that Blue Beetle, no matter what universe it's connected to, I'll go see it. Aquaman, I'll go see. Obviously, the next Batman movie, I'll go see. Joker and Harley Quinn that's coming out, I'll go see that. So I'm a DC guy. I will go to those movies. And I never want them to suck. I didn't want this movie to suck, and I certainly don't want the Superman movie that James Gunn is doing to suck. I don't want any of them to suck. So I'm hoping that we get some good things going forward. So, but very cool. Well, this was fun. We appreciate the DCU guys hanging out with us. We know you're going to talk a lot more about this movie in more detail on your show. So, but for right now, we're going to take a quick break and we're going to get creative, and then we're going to come back and close out the show.
Hey everyone, now it's time for the creative outlet segment. Oh, we've got a good one for you now. Mr. Mike, who's joining us tonight?
Well, we've got, as people can see on the YouTube, we've got with us Robert, Jeremiah, Donovan, and Jacob, and you guys are all with Heroes for Causes, correct?
Yes.
Awesome. And I'll let you guys each tell us what your role is. Starting with you, Robert.
Well, my role has been helping these guys out with different connections and trying to get us out more. I think that gives a good summary, right, Jeremiah?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
So Jeremiah?
I mostly do the connecting with charities, a lot of the face-to-face work we do with hospitals and things like that.
Jacob?
I'm pretty much just kind of answer questions as they're needed, work on some graphics and stuff like that, consult, just kind of throwing out my opinion when it's wanted.
Awesome. And Donovan?
I do the concept artwork and the pencils for the actual comics.
Awesome.
Oh,
awesome.
wow. You're the artistic one. Okay, that's awesome.
So, and Donovan, I guess we'll start with you on this one. Tell us about working with the Children's Diabetes Foundation, in particular, the newest book, I believe, is Upturn and Downdraft.
Yes, sir. Yeah, that's the one. So from the inception of our comics with Pathway and Jeremiah, we've tried to attach a real life human being to one of our characters. That way that there's there's a doorway to a real person, but two, to make sure that we're actually getting as accurate of information from somebody who's dealing with one of our one of the issues that we're dealing with. So with the Diabetes Foundation, CDF, they went through and they found a pair of twins in Colorado, I believe, right, Jeremiah? Yeah, in Colorado, and we had a Zoom call with them, and we kind of took some of their ideas that the two kids had, and we kind of applied that to our storyline, and then we kicked around some ideas as a group. I'm glad to say all my bad ideas got kicked out, and we went for more of a mech idea for that book. But that's where it started, and then we would talk with the mom and the dad and the kids as we progressed along, and we sent, when my pencils were when my concepts and my thumbnails were done, we sent them over, and then when my pencils were done, we sent them over, and then as some of the pages were getting inked, we'd send those to them. But then we wanted to kind of keep it a surprise, so we waited until the final book was actually done before Joseph and Jeremiah sent them over.
Oh, nice. How many books have you done so far?
We have 3. So
Okay.
Our first book is Pathway, which is cystic fibrosis. Our second book is Center Ice, which we teamed with the American Cancer Society.
Wow.
And then Upturn and Downdraft, which is Children's Diabetes Foundation.
All great causes.
Awesome.
All great
That is
causes.
awesome.
Yeah.
Where did the inspiration for producing comics like this come from?
Jeremiah. Jeremiah and I met on a Facebook page, and Jeremiah has cystic fibrosis. I had a cousin and his wife who passed away from CF, and Jeremiah had created the character Pathway kind of on his own. Well, not kind of, completely on his own. And he just wanted like a picture drawn. And I was like, oh, CF, I know that. Let's do it. And then Joseph kind of came along and he's like, oh, I think we should do a whole comic book. And I'm really lazy. So I'm like, oh, yeah. But we did. And it worked out. And then from there, Jeremiah and Joseph kind of got us in with American Cancer Society. And then Jeremiah and Joseph got us in with the CDF, right? CDF? Mm-hmm. I'm always scared I'm going to get the wrong letters.
Understandable.
And Jeremiah, how did you come about like making these the inspiration for these comics?
Honestly, the inspiration for the original one was myself. It was supposed to be just a cosplay and a matching picture I was going to use to hand out information about CF. And like Donovan said, it kind of ended up with a life of its own.
Awesome. And how do you go about distributing these comics? That's what I wanted to say.
We do it through our website, whenever we're at conventions, things like that.
Cool. Jacob, how did you get involved?
Actually, I've been best friends with Donovan since 7th grade, so by association kind of thing, he got on board, and then he initially told me about coloring on the pages and stuff like that, and that necessarily didn't work out, but I did end up helping out with like gas colors and Rice's colors and stuff like that, just kind of initial coloring, and then they kind of took on it or what they needed.
I think we're losing you a little bit, Jacob.
A little bit, yeah.
I tried to avoid kids.
You're stuck in the Speed Force, you know?
Exactly. Robert,
Barry.
how about you? How did you get involved initially?
So how I got involved is if you know me, I go to conventions. Normally I'm Buddy the Elf, and I've been going to the conventions for like the last 7 years. And Jeremiah and Joseph both reached out to me because they know I do these conventions. And they're like, hey, if we wanted to they were talking about like doing a cosplay. Am I allowed to say that? Is that okay, Jeremiah?
Yeah,
okay.
of course.
Talking about doing a cosplay for the character. They want to bring the characters alive. So they were asking me like, what con should we do and stuff like that, and was asking me for advice and stuff. And I raise money for the Children's Mercy Foundation in Kansas City every year. So we talked about maybe reaching out to them and stuff like that. So that was kind of how we all started. And then I'm friends with some of the comic book men, so I was tagging them when they're about to do an event in August with them. And so yeah, I'm just here to give advice and about the Comic-Con life.
Very cool. Well, I have to tell you, the one I read Upturn and Downdraft, and I was really impressed. And in particular, I mean, I know it's it's an association with the Children's Diabetes Foundation, mostly with type 1 diabetes. But as a person who has type 2 diabetes, when I was reading it, and I was like, wow, these characters are checking their blood sugars. I'm like, I've never seen that in a comic before. That's pretty awesome. How much research do you have to do, and how fun is it to try to apply some of that stuff to the books, the characters?
Joseph and I do most of the research. That's why we work with, the patients themselves and the charity, so that like they can help out with, the information they already have. Kind of lessens our research load.
And in this case, inspired by Brody and Everly, that I assume have type 1 diabetes. Is that right?
They do, yes.
Now, when you say inspired, did they have any concept in mind of what kind of superheroes they would like to be? Did you pull that from them?
We did it with all of our books. The kid, they tell us their hobbies, their favorite colors, and we work all that in. With them, they both love video games, so that's why we went with kind of the they're controlling the VR machines. Just because they both love video games. The robots are their favorite colors. Like, they get a lot of input into all that.
That's really
cool. Awesome that you guys are doing that. That's really cool. And I'm sure it's a thrill to them to be able to say, hey, I helped make a comic book and everything like that.
Well, they're always really excited when they see the final product and get to see themselves, which is the point,
For sure.
Now, I noticed that in reading this one, it does reference at least one of the other books. I'm sorry? But in both of them. Gotcha. So I'm guessing that this is a shared universe that you're creating here.
It is. While each individual hero and their stories, are technically separate, it's kind of our own little, think like Justice League or Avengers. With Pathway being the one who started it all, that's why he shows up, welcomes the new ones to the team, make sure it's everyone doing okay. He's kind of our flagship guy.
Gotcha. And have you heard directly from the charities involved, and how do they respond to these comics?
We have. Unfortunately, our charity we're working with for Pathway didn't do so well during the pandemic, so they no longer have funds to continue. But they loved, when the first batch they did, they absolutely loved it. Colton Underwood, which is the guy who started that charity, and he's been in the NFL and that thing, he absolutely loved it. His niece Harper loved it. The American Cancer Society has already talked about doing a second book. They've done 2 events across the country in addition to the ones here. The Tampa Bay Lightning had a hand in that, and they loved it. So far, everyone, and especially the kids, have loved getting to see themselves in these.
Yeah, I can imagine. Pretty soon you're going to get just overwhelmed with kids who want to be part of these books, I think.
And I would absolutely love every minute of it.
There's worse things to happen, by, more customers, more ideas for comics, more characters. You guys, might eventually rival DC and Marvel. You guys will have some.
we are working towards world domination on that end, but with heart, with heart.
Of course. Poor Donovan.
Domination through charity.
I would imagine that a lot of the charities, any way that they can get information out to people, so that not just the people who have those conditions can relate to the books themselves, because I think that's important for representation, but also for people who don't have that condition, so they can be educated as to what it's like to have that condition.
Exactly, and the way we do it isn't something that's really been done before. Like, normally you see cause-based books, they're like super educational, not very fun, or they focus so much on the fun that that the cause is just like a glimpse and you know nothing about it. We definitely took a while to make sure we got that line right.
So how long has Upturn and Downdraft been completed?
I want to say about 3 months, 4 months.
Okay,
that sounds about right.
And is it available digitally, or just digitally, or can you get print copies, or?
Well, digitally and physical through our website or from the Children's Diabetic Foundation website.
Awesome. And your website would have the access to the other two as well?
Correct.
And have you already started working on a fourth book?
We are in talks right now with a couple of charities about 2 possible more. Yes.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Nice.
So
That is really
one
cool.
quick question. If a kid wants to be part of the comic, how do they get in touch with you?
It wouldn't be the kid themselves. We work with the charities.
Right.
And then once we have a charity lined up and a cause, we find a kid that has that we can work with.
Gotcha. Okay.
It'd be a little bit much if we were trying to do each individual kid that wanted to do it.
Yeah.
But I know Donovan is known for, if a kid wants to be drawn as a hero for his cause as well, it does commissions.
Oh,
He does them very
Ooh.
reasonably reasonably priced. So
I try
That's
to help out.
and
That's great.
Robert, you mentioned conventions. Are you guys on the tour? Are you guys appearing at different places already this summer? Because the convention season is already upon us.
we were just at a spot at MegaCon.
Okay.
And we will be at Cincinnati Fan Expo as well this year.
Yes,
Nice.
and we'll be at the Secret Stash. Or
Yeah,
that will
and
be
it's August 12th.
Yes.
Wow.
Ooh. You might actually get a visit from Kevin. That'd be awesome.
That'd be
That
pretty
would
awesome.
be awesome. I just actually saw Kevin literally last weekend at Dallas Fan Expo.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
That's right.
really
He was
nice
there.
guy. Him and Jason Mewes and all of them, they were all together. They did like a whole Clerks / Mallrats reunion.
Nice.
Are you guys out of the same area? Are you different places?
We're all over the place. I'm
We're
in
all over.
Florida. Donovan's and I think Jake too. We're both in Vegas. Joseph's
I'm in Arkansas.
Goodness.
I'm in Idaho, actually.
Oh, Idaho.
Wow. So yeah, we got almost every time zone represented here. That's awesome.
Right.
Well, very cool. Well, I appreciate you guys being able to join us throughout all the time zones. Is there anything else that you want to promote while you're here? Any websites or anything like that?
I mean, other than the Heroes for Causes website, obviously, they also should absolutely check out the American Cancer Society Gold Together one and the Children's Diabetic Foundation. And if you know of any charities who might want to work with us, send them our way.
Awesome. Well, you guys are doing great work. We really appreciate
Bravo.
the efforts that you guys are putting in, and yes, bravo. Yeah, kudos to you guys.
Thank you.
You guys are aces in my book. This is cool. I love what you guys have done. Let's take a quick break, and we'll be back in a moment to close up the show. So that's going to wrap up another episode of the Earth Station One podcast. I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. DCU guys, Drew and Cletus, thank you so much. Guys, want to promote anything or anything you want to shout out about?
Yes, we have a new website, EarthStationDCU.com. And
Yay!
we have a weekly newsletter that's going to start coming out soon. So we're going to have our list of comics that are going to be coming on our next show, so people can read up on stuff if they want to listen to our reviews and stuff. So that's coming very soon.
That's cool. That is very, very cool. I think that's awesome. Cletus, anything you want to shout out about real quick?
Yeah, like I always do on our podcast as well, I have some comics here that if you enjoyed this movie, if you enjoy The Flash and you've not really read the comics, that I would recommend. Flashpoint, obviously, it's what the movie is. It's very good. It's the reason everybody knows Barry's origin the way it is in part because that comic is so good. The new 52 Flash, I personally really liked the start of that run. The artwork on that is my favorite Flash artwork.
Oh, that was awesome. That was
It's so good.
Yeah.
I highly recommend. I mean, some people are, what they do with the characters, some people don't like, but the artwork on that is very good. Then up top, you can't really see it, but hopefully, if everything goes well, we are going to see an adaptation of this in the new Gunn universe, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. Oh my gosh, it's my favorite Supergirl comic I've ever read. Drew and I reviewed it on our podcast. Hopefully they're doing a movie based around that. We got a really good Supergirl in this film. Strongly recommend that comic as well.
Very awesome. Ashley, thank you so much as always.
Oh, thank you. Always a pleasure.
Anything you want to shout out about?
Yeah, just I'm really excited that Strange New Worlds has started up again, and
Oh,
I'm
that's
really
so
excited
good.
because I waited until after it was done airing to watch it and fell absolutely in love with it. So I've signed up and I'm watching it week by week, and I'm really excited to participate with getting to chat about it with everybody this time.
Awesome. So when we do our review, we can count on you this time for it.
Yes, yeah. I might be even more excited for this than The Mandalorian, but as a Star Wars fan, I'm not admitting to
Ooh,
anything.
wow.
So I'm not owning to
Wow.
anything, but just saying.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Congrats. Welcome to the club.
Yeah.
And Mr. Mike, we've made it through another one, my friend.
We did, and as always, it's my pleasure.
Anything you want to shout out about, sir?
I just got to pay tribute. We lost a legend this past week. John Romita Sr. Passed away. And mostly, you know, we're talking about DC most of the time today, but I mean, I can't think of Marvel, and in particular, I can't think of Spider-Man without thinking of John Romita. I mean, I know Ditko co-created the character with Stan, but when I was growing up, I mean, the first books that I bought that had Spider-Man in them were by John. Whenever I think of Peter Parker, I think of John Romita's Peter Parker. The iconic images that he created, certainly the introduction of Mary Jane, you just hit the jackpot, as well as the iconic image of the spider suit in the trash can with Peter walking in the rain in the alley. I mean, those are two iconic, like, you're lucky as an artist to get one iconic image, you know, that makes it known, but he's had several. Those are just two of them. Of course, the wedding issue of Peter and Mary Jane, et cetera, co-created the Punisher, co-created Wolverine. I mean, you can't say enough about this guy. So, and I wish I'd got a chance to meet him at some point and let him know how much his work meant to me. But yeah, he will be missed, and he definitely made an impact.
Mm-hmm. It's amazing how iconic his artwork was. If you think of Spider-Man from any time in the 70s and the mid 60s on, it's all John Romita. It's amazing the stuff you got. The scene where you have Green Goblin dragging Peter Parker unmasked as Spider-Man, that's John Romita.
That's another one.
With
Yeah.
Spider-Man, they even recreated it for the very first Spider-Man with the current Spider-Man. They had him lifting the rubble and, you know, him stuck in it. That's John Romita and everything. It's just awesome. It is just awesome stuff. And he had big shoes to fill in, taking off after Ditko and everything.
Yep.
So it was pretty awesome. It was really, really awesome. I guess that's gonna be my shout out too. So, you know, he was a great in the industry, and he will be missed. We got a lot of great things coming to you throughout the summer, folks, and we are so happy that you guys are here with us. And you know what? Thank you as always. As you know, we like to say, it's great to have everybody with us, and you know, we want you to join with us every week. You could do that by going to your like and subscribe button wherever you listen to the show, even up on YouTube. Like and subscribe. Can't say that enough about it. And you know what? I think it's great how many people we have subscribing to the YouTube channel. It'd be even better if you told all your friends and neighbors about it. The more people find us, the better we could do. The more we could start making money up on YouTube, because, you know, those YouTube bucks are so awesome. So it's pretty cool with that kind of stuff. So definitely check us out up on YouTube, up on Apple, up on Google, Amazon, wherever you listen to podcasts. We are there. So definitely join in, leave feedback, and you know what? We'll move on now. So it's pretty cool. We definitely would love to hear from you guys. Feedback at ourstation1.com is the best way to get in touch with us. And of course, if you want to get more in there with us, why not join the ESO Patreon? For as little as $1 a month, you can also help support the network and Earth Station One. Go to patreon.com/ESO Network. As a way of always saying thank you, let's give a quick shout out real quick to our patrons, because our patrons are just the lifeblood for us here up on the network. And, you know, right now, we want to say thank you, of course, to some of the fine people here. Of course, we want to say thank you to Mary Ogle, Barbara Ogle, and of course, Mark Heffernan, and of course, Jerry Chandler. And that's just a few of the names that are subscribing to us. It's pretty awesome that you get people like that. And you know what? You too can do it for, like we said, as little as $1 a month. It's not that much, folks. And you know what? Go to patreon.com/ESO Network. All right, folks, that is going to wrap up the show for tonight. We hope to see everybody next week here. You will see you. Peace. And we are done. Take it easy. And remember, don't forget the tomato sauce. Boom. And we're done.
You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.